Greetings duelists, and welcome to another video. By the time of this recording, the North American WCQ is still going on. We're currently around between round 7 and round 8. I kind of wanted to make a video because the last round that happened by the time of this recording was one of the best duels that was featured at the event. And not only that, it kind of sets a precedence of something that we want to see in the TCG, like in the foreseeable future. So what you see here on the on this picture is Corbin against Merjano or Merjan. Corbin is on the Ancient Gear strategy, and Merjan is on Fiendsmith Snake Eyes. And no, your eyes are not deceiving you. You are seeing a Chaos Ancient Gear Giant on the board, and it's about to OTK through the entire board. Not only does he do this once, he does this twice. And I kind of want to talk about this because it's very rare when you get to see like decks that are not really well known in the metagame just win against like what is the best deck of the format with just engine cards. Like he didn't use talents, he didn't use droplets, he didn't even use prosperity, he didn't use cards like those. He didn't even use hand traps either. The one card that he did use was Cold Battle Grave to stop this Ghost Ogre, and that was a really smart move on his part because he needed this card to resolve, which is the Ancient Gear Advance. So I cannot do justice for this player. I cannot do justice for Ancient Gears. I cannot explain literally everything that was going on. But something I can do is dissect a little bit on what cards that were played and the pivotal role that they functioned for this specific duel. The most important card is this card right here, Ancient Gear Advance. This card reads, when this card is activated, add one Ancient Gear spell and trap from your deck to your hand, except Ancient Gear Advance. Once per turn, you can trigger one monster, draw one card, and apply this effect for the rest of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. Normal summon one Ancient Gear Golem or level 5 or higher monsters that mention it without tributing. You cannot set cards the turn you activate this card. A lot of Ancient Gear cards have this clause. You cannot set cards when you are resolving their effects. And that's pretty much just to tell you that this strategy is made for going second. Like, the entire purpose behind this strategy is very similar to the Tempai Dragon strategy, where you just summon really big guys and just plow through your opponent's board. Another card that was played was Ancient Gear Fortress. Ancient Gear Fortress reads, during the turn that they're normal or special summoned, your opponent cannot target Ancient Gear monsters you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of Ancient Gear cards and effects. If this card is destroyed in the spell and trap zone, you can special summon one Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except Ancient Gears. You don't care about this restriction. Like, all he was summoning this entire time was Ancient Gear monsters. Let's go back here. So this card is really powerful because it essentially turns all your Ancient Gear monsters into what we call Magic Specters. If you know about the Magic Spectre theme, you know that they are known for not being able to be destroyed or targeted. And that is the blanket protection that they are getting from this card. And that is a really, really big deal because it means, basically what this means is, this Desiree does nothing. If they link away IP into SP Little Knight, it also does nothing. Promethean Fire Princess also cannot target this, so that's another card that is dead. A lot of these cards just cannot handle your Ancient Gear monsters when under the fortress. And there are no real ways of him to get rid of this. He does have the Desiree, but if you notice in the spell and trap zone, you don't see the sequence monster. And not only that, he activated more than one fortress, and there's nothing stopping you from activating fortress more than once. So this also is a card that already like blankets the board. We have Ancient Gear Fusion. Basically is branded fusion but for Ancient Gear monsters. And the one thing that it asks is that Ancient Gear Golem or Ultimate Pound you control is being used as material. If we go back to Ancient Gear Advance, this aids the condition for Ancient Gear Fusion real easily because this makes it so you can normal summon Ancient Gear Golem or your Dark Golem or your Pound. And Dark Golem is treated as Ancient Gear Golem in the field or graveyard. So that already makes the summon effect for this real easy, and that is a really big deal because it summons the Chaos Ancient Gear Guide Giant. And if we read this card, it says unaffected by spell traps. So this is a really big deal because in this feature match, Merjan also had Forbidden Droplets set, and the Forbidden Droplets could not be used on the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. So your opponent's monster cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. Also a really big deal. Remember, this is getting the targeting protection from Ancient Gear Fortress. So that's another big deal. And the last thing is this can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and this inflicts piercing damage to your opponent. Trample monsters are really strong against Snake Eyes. We're talking about Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, Chaos Archfiend, the Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, as we see right here. Like any monster that can attack through multiple monsters and it's big is just going to win against the Snake Eye matchup because these monsters are not big. Like they are pretty much small monsters. And if the Flamberge Dragon decides to like spawn back the ancient, like the Snake Eye monsters, the Gear Giant is just going to trample all over them and just like kick them to the rear, and it does do piercing damage, so it doesn't matter if they are summoned in defense. So yeah, like this is a really big deal, like for the opponent. There are other cards that just facilitate this combo. There's cards that I also haven't posted, but there is one monster I want to talk about because this monster came out in the newest Battles of Legends Criminal Revenge set, and this card is Ancient Gear Dragon. Cannot be a special summon if you control no monsters or all monsters you control are Earth Machines. You can summon this card without tributing. When your opponent activates a spell, trap, or effect, you can send to the graveyard one machine monster from your hand or face over your field, or one Ancient Gear Golem to negate that effect. You can even send itself. And this is also really strong because basically if you're just summoning a card with your engine, that just stops your opponent from stopping you. And like it's super easy to summon. You have ways to get to this card by other means. Remember, this card ignores summoning conditions, so it can summon this card even if it says cannot be special summoned. Another card that we see here in this duel is Ancient Gear Duel. You're probably wondering how is a trap card being face up on the board? Well, one of the monsters makes it possible. I don't remember which one, but I know that one of the Ancient Gear monsters make that possible. But what this card reads is Ancient Gear Golem and monsters that mention in your monster zone are unaffected by your opponent's monster effects. This is a really big deal because you already know this is unaffected by spell traps. So just making this unaffected by monsters also like just guarantees you the trample effect without getting interrupted. And we go back to the Snake Eye scenario. Like there are not many ways to just get rid of your opponent's resources outside of like, for example, SP Little Knight. So yeah, like just having this resolved, it's a really big deal. So Merjan, upon panic, just decided to summon access code because the access code is just bigger than the Chaos Giant. However, there is one thing to take note of, and that is the Ancient Gear Ballista. Ancient Gear Ballista reads, when this card is link summoned, you can add an Ancient Gear monster or gear type from your deck to your hand. You probably already know about this card because of Earth Machine decks or like super heavy samurai strategies. But the other effect that not many people know about is this one. You can target a spell trap you control and one face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy that card you control, and if you do, change the opponent's monster's attack and defense to 0. So this also takes care of the situation where they get some monsters that are big enough for you, and just turn them into monsters that you can just run over with the Gear Giant. And again, the ballista will be protected by Ancient Gear Fortress, so no real ways to stop that either. But yeah, I hope you understood this little brief breakdown of what happened. It's not every day we see like a deck just breaking a board and just beating one of the best decks with just engine cards, and this is something a lot of people are like wanting to be possible in the game. Like, non-engine cards being used to stop your opponent is fine, but when you have a deck that just uses their engine cards to just like win the game, that is a really big deal, and that is something to just take note of. This is not to say that Ancient Gear is like meta contender by any means. This is a deck that really depends on opening specific cards. However, this is a perfect example of a duel where somebody just exploited the weakness behind Snake Eyes and just used a strategy to their advantage. I highly encourage you to watch this Fisher match if you get the chance, especially at the interview in the end, because Corbin does do a really neat Prowler impression. You can tell this guy just is a fan of the anime. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope you found that video, this video interesting and to your liking and understanding. Keep practicing and keep dueling.